It's no blood, no foul.
It's no blood, no foul.
It's no blood, no foul. Emotions spill on the court when you proud. To rep your city, New York's the hometown. Playgrounds prepare me for them hard fouls.
What's going on, everyone, and welcome to the latest edition of the No Blood, No Foul podcast presented by Real GM. I'm your host, Slice. I'm joined by my co-hosts tonight, Coke and Jim, as well as our executive producer, Moo. Also joining us tonight as a special guest is the head men's basketball coach at Queens College, Matt Collier. You can follow him on Twitter directly at coach_M_Collier. Coach, we appreciate you taking the time to join us tonight, man.
Appreciate the invitation, guys. This is looking forward to it. It's going to be a lot of fun.
Absolutely, man. So actually, it should be a good night for all Knicks fans. You know, Knicks picked up a big win tonight, the first of the three-game homestand to end the season 102-98 versus San Antonio Spurs to go up to 39-31 for the season and keep pace with the Atlanta Hawks and Miami in that battle for the 4, 5, and 6 seeds as they all picked up wins tonight. You know, the first quarter was rough to watch offensively for both squads as the Knicks held the Spurs to 18 points on 27% shooting, but they also only got 20 points on 29% shooting as they took the 2-point lead going into the second. Julius dropped 14 of those Knicks 20 points in the first there. Alec Burks then made his presence felt in the second quarter in his comeback game as he scored 14 of his own points. As a back-and-forth second quarter ended with the Knicks going into the half up by 3, 46-43. The aforementioned Julius Randle and Alec Burks led the Knicks with 14 apiece, while Drew Eubanks paced a balanced Spurs scoring effort with 8. The third quarter started off as a nightmare then for the Knicks. You know, the Spurs hit the 13 of the first 14 shots, going up by as much as 17, but the Knicks ended the quarter on a 16-2 run, I believe, with RJ Barrett coming alive in the after a poor first half as he cut the Knicks deficit to 4, 77-73. The final period saw Alec Burks hit yet another quarter with at least 14 points, dropping 16, combined with some big baskets by Julius Randle and RJ as the Knicks took that big 4-point win. You know, Alec Burks, man, he's been out for 11 of the last 13 games, dropped a 30-piece. Julius Randle just shy of a triple-double, 25, 9, and 9. And as I mentioned, RJ had a poor first half with 5, came up huge in the second half, hitting some big threes with 19 of his own. Like I said, every game from here on out is basically a playoff game. You know, Atlanta won, Miami won, so the Knicks needed this one. Fellas, 1 win down, 2 more left to end this 3-game homestand. Colt, kick us off with your thoughts, man.
Well, you know, for starters, since you said every game counts, man, that Lakers game still stung, but this win kind of puts that out of the memory and took some of the stench off of that bad loss. And, you know, I like what I saw from the team. Once again, they showed that they can bounce back, you know, show some resolve, show some mental toughness, and gut out a win that they had to have if they have hopes of getting that 4th seed to secure, you know, home court advantage in the first round of the playoffs. And, you know, I'm not going to lie, I was kind of shook for a minute. You know, the game was tight up until the third quarter. You know, the Spurs went on that crazy run. What did they make? Like 9 out of 9 and from the field in a row.
First 12.
Oh, 12, even crazier. So, you know, it was looking like the game was getting away from us. We dropped down 16, you know, but we fought our way back. Fourth quarter comes, you know, the Knicks do what a good team does. They buckle down on defense and, you know, they turned the game around. It's like they turned that light switch on and, you know, they cut into that lead, kept chipping away until we got ahead and got over the hump. And, you know, bounce back game from RJ. That's what I want to see from him. That's our mentally tough rookie, 20 years old, had a nightmare game against the Lakers, 0 for 7 from 3 in that game. What does he do? He comes back tonight, 5 for 9 from 3, drops 24 buckets, and, you know, just shows, you know, this is the type of player that he is. Doesn't stay down for too long, always has a game to answer for a bad game. So shout out to RJ. And Derrick Rose, man, this is a guy who's, you know, he's been our champion off the bench for the last, you know, few weeks. You know, he sprained the ankle, couldn't go tonight. What happens? Next man up, Alec Burks comes in, drops 30 off the bench. We don't really miss Rose. He also gives us some valuable minutes at point guard. And like I said a few weeks back, hey, man, it makes you think. Should we start Burks at point guard when Rose is back and sit Elf, you know, the F down? I'm tired of seeing Elf. We can't be giving away minutes, you know, to open up games. So, you know, just a great win, you know, keep the momentum going. Let's try to close out this stretch and end the season on a high note, lock in that 4th seed. Jim, give me your thoughts, bro.
Man, I went to some dark places during that third quarter run the Spurs made. I'll let you guys know, I turned 32 at midnight, and I was just like, the Knicks are gonna let me down like that on my almost birthday. I was like, how are you gonna do that to me, guys? Yeah, I was all I was thinking. I was just like, oh man, the only reason we're good is because of Derrick Rose. I was like, we really miss him. Like everything was really stagnant. Everyone was taking like bizarre long range twos, and then RJ hit that runner in the paint. And I was even like, no, don't take that shot. Like, because I think Bullock was standing open in the corner. And I was just like, he needs to pass that. And that just got him going. It ignited him. I mean, he hit the next 6 or 7 shots, I think. And he it's happened a bunch this season where our 20-year-old sophomore just throws the team on his back and just takes over. And you know what? His resiliency was how we got back in the game. And then, you know what? Burks, once they made the move to pull Payton out of the game, Burks got a few shots up. He got hot, and he carried us pretty much the rest of the way. I was getting pissed at Burks for being injured so much, and tonight is the type of night where it shows you how much we really missed him, and just having an extra scorer on the floors makes a world of difference. Moo, now on to you.
Yeah, I think it was worth the wait for Burks to come back. He's always, he's been doing it all season. We talked about the numbers, right? And Burks being, one of the most clutch guys, not just on the team, but in the NBA. But overall, it was an ugly game. It started, neither team played offense or defense. I don't think I've ever seen that. Right? It's been a while. Nobody could hit any shots, and it wasn't because of the defense. It was just, bad offense. But yeah, I'm still trying to figure out, and that's something I'm going to ask the coach in a bit. But I'm trying to figure out why Payton is like, what he reminds me of? Charlie Ward without the defense and the shooting.
So just terrible.
So nothing like Charlie Ward.
Man. But
he can't be out there anymore. It's to the point where it's unbearable.
It was awful. He went 0 for 4 on just easy open layup. I think it was 0 for 3 on layups and 0 for 1 on a wide open shot. And I don't know. It's just, and I messaged you guys right at the start of the third. I was like, oh, this is going to be a short post game because we usually have a short post game when the Knicks lose. It felt like they were going to lose, and against the Spurs, I was like, there's no way the Spurs, if they get that big a lead, will let any team back. But Knicks clawed back. They played Knicks basketball. You have to give credit to Tibbs and the team for not giving up. We've seen that all season. The Spurs aren't. You know what? They're not the most talented team. Right? You can see it. They really don't have a lot of shooters, and it's basically DeRozan. I was glad in the third when Rudy Gay started going 1-on-1. I was like, oh yeah, they're coming back, right? Because I think Gay missed like 3 or 4 straight 1-on-1 attempts. I was like, yeah, that the momentum has turned, and the Knicks are coming back. But yeah, overall, great game. Any win is a good game for the Knicks. It was results. Yeah.
You know what I saw about, and to add to your Payton point, this is why I wanted to jump in. I noticed that instead of bringing Payton back in the second, and I believe in the fourth, he went with Frank instead.
Right. He's doing that. He did last game too.
Yeah.
Right.
I think that's a big sign of things to come. That I think he's being phased out.
Oh, let's hope so.
Yeah, and who would have thought it would be Frank? But yes, he's getting phased out.
And Frank's been looking pretty good, right? He hits some open shots. He defends well. I mean, he is what he is, but I think he's finally doing playing a role that the fans and everybody expected.
Yep.
Sadly, it's the last week of the season, which could be his last season with the Knicks, but it's better than nothing. So hopefully that does happen, and we see a lot less of Payton because it's just brutal with him out there. Brutal. So, Coach, what's your take on the game?
Well, I have to admit it was my first NBA game of the year. So it was, but it was fun. It was a good game. A lot of different dynamics went on through the game. Each quarter was different for for different reasons. So that was interesting to watch how different things played themselves out. Different guys got involved from individually, strategically. Some things went differently in all of the quarters. So it was a fun game to watch. Knicks definitely showed a lot of character, a lot of grit. They got down big in the third, and Spurs went on a crazy run. But you could kind of see that it was, they were on fire. The Spurs were on absolute fire. So at first you would say, okay, the defense needs to pick up. But then once they hit a few, then it was just like, all right, they're playing defense. Now they're just making shots. So it was an interesting, the third quarter got interesting, but then they clawed back towards the end of the third, and in the fourth they stepped up. So I agree that I thought we might not hit 80 at one point after the first quarter. I was like, whoa, but it ended up being the offense picked up a little bit on both ends, and it ended up being an exciting game all the way to the end. Big free throw shooting, that was key. That the Knicks made their free throws down the stretch, so it didn't allow. Once they got the lead, they kept them at bay. A couple missed free throws here and there, it definitely would have been a different game. So that's huge, especially for a young team making free throws down the in the clutch. That's huge to keep teams at bay.
Yeah, definitely. I agree. It was looking like a 90s box score right after the first quarter with that shooting, barely breaking 20. The Knicks just barely broke 20 points. To me, one of the big things was, though, the Knicks turnovers, or the lack of turnovers in the second half. They had 8 in the first, and they kind of let the Spurs stay in it with their poor shooting. But in the second, like you said, they weren't playing awful defense. The Spurs were just hitting big shots. They actually got into the paint a decent amount. But the Knicks only had 2 turnovers in the second half there, which to me was one of the big factors, in addition to, Coach, as you mentioned, the free throw shooting. I think they went 17 for 17 tonight, if I remember right. But the other thing I want to point out, though, is 23 assists on 35 shots. The Knicks, we do have a lot of ISO-heavy plays and maybe, rely a little bit too much on Julius Randle going ISO sometimes, and Burks, coming back, another ISO-heavy ball handler. But 23 assists on 35 shots is something that you really need to do, especially when the game slows down, with the playoffs coming up and every game being one of those key matchups. Unfortunately, IQ came back and didn't really do much in his 11 minutes. You could tell, just a little bit winded coming back from injury. So at least he maybe can get another practice under his belt and come back fresh on Saturday, going up against another rookie in LaMelo Ball, which we'll talk about a little bit later. But to me, the biggest thing in a box score that you got to point out is Alec Burks. Coming back big, 30 points. But the one thing nobody's mentioned yet, 10 rebounds. Just goes to show how some of our guards sometimes, chip in on the rebounding end for the Knicks, especially when that's been a pain point as well for us. 11 and 20 shooting, 5 and 10 from 3, just cannot be understated. And plus RJ Barrett with that big second half. But, to me, the Knicks taking care of the ball and passing it, dishing and swishing, hitting those big threes were really the key factors to this game.
And, what makes taking care of the ball even more impressive is the Knicks did this with, their most poised point guard out. They're running the offense through Julius Randle and Alec Burks, not traditional guards, not traditional ball handlers, but they got the job done tonight. Even IQ off the bench, he's not really a prototypical point guard, more of a scorer, combo kind of guard. So whenever we take care of the ball, we just increase the chances of winning, and we did that tonight. But, I also want to give props to Julius Randle, because even though he, didn't have like a superstar night as far as shooting the ball, he always finds a way to contribute and stuff the stat sheet. So again, another near triple double. We've grown used to this thing. I think we're kind of forgetting that not too many Knicks players have been in triple double territory this much in a year. So he's really having a historic year. Shout out to Julius Randle. I know Coach Collier could appreciate that. He was a big Barkley fan, and Randall's having a Barkley-esque season. So, he's doing his thing. I don't think anyone saw this coming. And let's just hope he continues to get better. But before we segue into anything else, I just want to talk about the refs for a minute. I know you guys you get tired of me killing the refs, but God, what is going on? Let's start with the continuation call. That really shouldn't have been counted. Yeah, on DeRozan, he hit the shot, but that it shouldn't have counted. Yeah, definitely shouldn't have counted.
Yeah.
And then, the fourth quarter with the phantom RJ step on the sideline that never happened. Thank God that we have, the replay to challenge these calls and get that right. But they're just making some really, game altering plays that, if we didn't challenge that, who knows what would have happened. You can't lose possessions down the stretch to the refs. You know what I mean?
That foul on Frank, too.
Yeah.
That was the most absurd.
Out of bounds.
The only thing I thought in that moment, I was just like, this ref has money on the game. I was like, "What's the spread?" I was so angry. I was just like, "How do you call that foul in that spot?" It's
Well,
like,
Coke, I gotta correct you real quick because we didn't challenge the RJ step out. Every turnover in the last 2 minutes is automatically reviewed. That's what happened because we wasted our challenge on the stupid foul earlier.
Right. I stand corrected. Thank you. Yeah, but thank God for that rule, man.
Yeah, seriously, because that was a momentum shifter. I think Randle hit a long two after that, and then it put us up by 4. I was like, that's a huge basket that happened. Like that allowed us to win the game. That was the difference. Those 2 points right there, and that could be a swing the other way.
And these are the same refs from previous seasons, right? They're not like replacement or some new guys.
Well,
not that I'm aware of.
It's been thinned out a bit because I know a lot of refs have been in COVID protocols lately. I think they said 13 refs at some point have been in COVID protocols. So there were some veteran refs who's retired lately. Right. So they're rotating in new talent, but still, this is the top of the profession. You gotta have the best of the best calling these games. You got to get these calls right, especially in the clutch. I'd rather you just don't make the call at all and swallow the whistle than to make a bad call or controversial call.
Or a call after like 3 or 5 seconds.
Yeah.
Delayed. Yeah.
There was a bunch of those tonight where it's like the whistle, like I forget who shot the 3, but Randle was the one who fouled them. And it was like way after the ball, we had rebounded the ball and we started going up the court again. I was just like, what? I was like, how do you call that now?
Yeah, let's shift focus away from the refs, right? We don't need to complain about them. We came back with the win. It's always good to point it out. But to me, there's one thing I've noticed in a bunch of games, and it's the second quarter right now. RJ Barrett has been the lone starter out there to start the second quarter, usually surrounded with our bench pieces. Obi Toppin coming in for Julius. You got Taj in. And then today you saw Burks and IQ. Normally it's been Derrick Rose and Frank Ntilikina coming in there, but now you saw Burks and Quick. So my question to you guys is try to get a little bit of conversation going here. Our second quarter now, that big kind of bench run, when the bench comes in surrounded by RJ, do you think it's going to be Rose Burks, Rose Quick, or do you think Tibbs is kind of go, hot hand there? We know Tibbs kind of likes to play with his rotations and not kind of mess around. Curious to see what your guys' thoughts is on who our main second, bench rotation lineup will be.
I'll take it first. It goes back to what I was saying a few weeks ago. I think, you can't come in with Burks, IQ, and Rose. It's just too many ball handlers. You lose some size if you go that route. I think you got to take Elf out of the starting lineup. I would like to replace him with Burks. Go with that atypical, no traditional ball handler, but Burks can still bring it up. Randle can initiate the offense and RJ can as well. And, that way you don't disturb the continuity and the synergy between IQ and Rose off the bench. That's been a winning combo. And then the minutes, you keep Rose's minutes down by bringing him off the bench. So I'm advocating to just start Burks in replace of Elfrid Payton, please, for the love of God.
Yeah, I agree with Coke. I think if the Knicks played at a faster pace, having a non-traditional point guard like Burks starting may be an issue, but they're slow and methodical anyway, so they're not going to change, right? You're not going to suddenly find a Dame Lillard to change the pace of this team. So given what they have, I think Burks is fine. Burks is really crafty, right, with the ball in his hands. He's not the fastest, he's not the most explosive, but he never seems to be out of control, very rarely. So if you throw him in there, he at least he gives you the same kind of ball handling that Payton does, right? Except he's much better offensively. So we talked about, the Knicks sometimes when they have Payton and Noel out there, it's like 3-on-5. So if you have Burks out there, now you've got another scorer. It makes having, someone like Noel play major minutes and not really be in factor offense a lot better in teams if they collapse on Randle. Now you've got another shooter to make them pay for it. So I think definitely I'm with Coke. Burks would be who I'd start. I think Burks would be fine. He can play whatever. You want to start him, fine. You want to play him 40 minutes, fine. If you want to play him off the bench 20 minutes, fine. Right? He seems like that type of player. So yeah, definitely. I would play him starting and then go with Rose and IQ coming off the bench. They like Coke said, they have a very good chemistry and dynamic.
So you notice that Coke didn't really answer the question. He pulled a politician and answered the question that he wanted to answer, not the question you asked. So I'm going to answer the question that Slice asked, and I'm going to say that I don't think RJ is going to be starting. Once everyone's healthy and back, I don't think RJ is going to be starting the second quarter anymore. I think you're going to see your IQ, Rose, Burks, Obi, Taj group out. I think this is only happening because of necessity, because we've been so undermanned. And I agree. I definitely agree with Coke, though, that I do think there's too many cooks in the kitchen when it comes to our bench. There's too many guys that need the ball in their hands. But I think that's what the plan is. I think you're still going to get Payton your token 8 minutes or so, and then maybe if things are going bad, he'll make a switch at halftime. We've been so good even with Payton out there, and Payton's been horrible in his minutes. But I just don't think Tibbs is going to make a change.
Jim, how horrible has he been?
How bad is he? Isn't he like bottom 10 in real plus minus on the year in all the players in the NBA?
I'm pretty sure real plus minus is a completely made up stat that has nothing to do with anything.
Plus minus, whatever.
Oh, he's actually cracked the bottom 100 in plus minus.
Just rely on the eye test. The eye test says it all.
Anything you look at to see he's been pure trash. I mean, coach, you just watched the first Knick game you said, right? Do you have any other adjective to describe Elfrid Payton's game other than trash?
He didn't play well tonight.
Talk about a political answer right there.
So you're not gonna get me.
But nah, I mean, obviously I think we all don't want Elf to start right now. Burks, I think for us it's always gonna be the hot hand. I prefer to have Derrick Rose starting, actually. I think I'm gonna stay with that opinion. And I think I like the craftiness and the scoring that Burks brings, a little bit more ball handling and an ISO player that we need off the bench, as opposed to, in the starting lineup there, you have Julius who kind of takes it. RJ tries to get cooking a little bit early sometimes, So I think Burks' talents are better suited coming off the bench a little bit, the secondary scoring up against other teams' bench units. To me, I think that's where his best place is. And IQ is just a rook. I think IQ can really play well alongside of Burks, as well as alongside of Derrick Rose. What I really liked from Rose and what we missed a lot this game, especially early on, was Derrick Rose likes to drive into the paint, and he's always looking to dish. If you guys notice a lot in the Lakers game, he would come in, and a lot of times what we see with Elf and what really frustrates us, Elf goes into the paint and just looks to the basket or just doesn't even know where to have to look. Derrick Rose comes in, and there was a few times where he jumped on his feet a little early, but he comes in and he looks to dish right away, kick it out outside. Coke, you've always alluded to it, that Julius Randle, Reggie Bullock kind of connection they have there, where Julius gets a lot of assists to Reggie. I like the fact that Derrick Rose can get in there. He can find Julius, RJ in the corner a bit, kind of space it out and attack the paint and let these guys create from the outside, while Burks kind of fits in well with that Obi and Taj. No creators in the 4-5 spot. In a 3 spot, you'll have, you might have a Frank in there or something like that, or if Reggie comes in. To me, I think a player of Burks' talent really fits in really well with his secondary lineup, where we don't need somebody who really looks to distribute. We need more scores. You guys mentioned Frank a bit. I got nothing else to say about Frank. I think, he played really well. I can't really advocate him to be a huge rotation player, but he's better than Elf. So that's all I'm going to leave it at. But Coach, I want to kick it to your thoughts. You haven't been able to say much, but you said you haven't really watched the Knicks too much this season. I just want to get your take on, who kind of impressed you from, coach perspective, but as a player, you would love to coach if you had the chance.
I mean, obviously Burks stepped up huge today. Big game, and he was efficient also, right? He didn't, he made majority of his shots. I mean, the Knicks have they have a nice team. They have balance. Obviously, they have some guys out with Derrick Rose, and they have some guys coming back, so they're trying to get the rotation together. But they have a nice team. They have an identity for sure. They know who they are. Everybody does what they're out there to do. They play well together. They pass the ball well to each other, even though they do play a lot of ISO ball at times. But they, defensively, I think they're very solid. It's a nice team. They don't wow you, with talent, but they make plays, which they just make simple, easy plays. They don't do anything super extraordinary. Randle's starting to take his game to the next level. with his mid-range game, which is, looking pretty, really good. And that's what the NBA defenses, and all honestly now it's trickling down to everybody, is designed to take away threes and layups at the basket, right? So the elite guys are the ones that have that mid-range game, and he's starting to show a consistent mid-range game like the elite players do. So it's they have a good team. They have a nice team. I don't know how far they'll go once they get into playoffs. Obviously, it'll come down to matchups, but they have a nice team. I was impressed with them today.
So, Coach, I got another question for you. So, I know you said you haven't watched the Knicks a lot, but since the calendar turned to May, RJ Barrett has been really struggling with his finishing. I think he's like 47% at the rim right now, or in the restricted area. Was there anything you noticed tonight that might lead you to believe why he's struggling for shooting at the rim?
Well, obviously he's a tremendous athlete, so you would think that he would assert himself around there and go up strong. If that hasn't been happening, I can't really say why, but he was shooting it today. So you take those threes over, over twos. Was he 5 for 9 tonight? So if you're making more than half of your threes, take those.
I guess you don't need to go to the rim, right?
Yeah, right, exactly. But honestly, I look at that as that's what good players do. Like, okay, I might, and it's not okay. Well, I'm not making layups. I'll just make threes. That's not always going to work out for you, but you're still finding a way to contribute, because it's, he was one of those guys, like, I'm watching the game until the third quarter. I didn't even know he was playing, it was just like, where's he at, and then, but in the third quarter, when he did step up, he stepped up, and then the beginning of the fourth. So it was, that's the mark of, I think, of somebody that's starting to get it, a team that's starting to get it. Like, okay, one aspect may not be working for me, but I can contribute in other ways. And at a certain point in time, that one thing about coaching, I think, is that you realize that at a certain point in time, it doesn't matter what you draw up. It's about the guys out there making plays. It doesn't matter about the scheme. Yes, though, all of those things are hugely important, but at a certain point in time, at a certain point in the game, it's about guys stepping up and making plays on both ends of the floor. And you know what? If, RJ Barrett, if he's been struggling, but he figured out, he still had found a way to impact the game and make plays when they needed it, then that's the mark of a player that's starting to find it out and to find himself. And then also as a team, guys knowing, okay, it's just time to make a play now and stepping up and doing it. And that goes a long way.
Hey, Coach, I want to throw something your way too. Instead of talking about individuals, I want to talk to you about the team. If you look at the Knicks, we've been like top 3 defensively all year long. As a coach, I'm sure you value defense and, guys sticking together, having a chemistry on the defensive side of the ball. The Knicks really don't have any all NBA defenders. Did you really see anything tonight that would epitomize how we've been able to stay a top 3 defense despite not having, all NBA individual defenders? What did you see on the team defensive side of the ball with the schemes that we're running?
So today, again, in the NBA is all about adjustments and matchups and all that. But what I saw today was the Spurs don't have a lot of great one-on-one players. So what they just did was, and they're not a great shooting team. So what they did was just, they kind of almost dared them to, you're not taking an open 3. We know this. Like, I think I looked at the stats. I think they're bottom 2 in the league, and even in three-pointers made. I think they're second to last in 3-pointers made. So it's like, all right, so that's not really a threat. Then it was just like, okay, we're going to let you drive, but then we're going to force you to take tough contested 2s. And they don't have great one-on-one players. Their best one-on-one player is DeMar DeRozan. So when he had the ball, it was a big shift. When he had the ball, the whole defense was, you could see they had eyes on him. They were helping. And then if he wasn't making a play for himself, he was able to kick to guys and get the defense moving. When the other guys had the ball, there was no help. It was just like, all right, go ahead and try to play one-on-one against us and take a bad 2. And that was working for a while. Then in the beginning of the second half, Murray comes back in the game in the beginning of the third. And then he starts exploiting them on the ball screen, and that's when they took the big lead on the middle ball screen gave them a lot of problems. And then you started to see that old Spurs basketball start to creep in, where drive, kick, don't let the defense set up, keep them moving, keep them closing out, and then they were able to make some plays off of that. And being honest, I didn't even really necessarily see the Spurs, the Knicks adjust to it, as more so as the Spurs kind of stopped doing it at a certain point. And then Murray went out the game, and then they kind of went back to how they were playing before. And DeRozan wasn't as effective as he was previously. So that's what I kind of saw. But again, it's all about matchups. They play, again, they're going to force you to take tough twos, and they don't have the Knicks don't have great rim protection, but they do a good job of, once the ball gets in the paint, it starts to get crowded. And then now they force guys to take tough twos in the lane, and then they do a good job rebounding. At least they did tonight. So that's what I saw.
You know what I noticed? And why that momentum switched and they stopped getting into the paint is because they substituted Taj Gibson into the game and took Mukau's least favorite player, Nerlens Noel, out.
Yeah.
I mean, that was the thing that
he was bad. He was bad in the ball. He was bad in the ball screen, and what he was doing was he just kept backing up. Like as soon as the guy would come, he would just he never stopped the Murray from getting downhill, and then it was just chaos once he got past the first line of defense. So the guy, after they took him out and put Taj Gibson in, Taj Gibson did a much better job of holding the ball up on the on that middle ball screen, because they were killing him with it in the beginning of the third.
The way Taj recovers, like when he tags the guy driving the ball and then goes back to his guy he's covering, is just like elite, even at 35. It's just that he's just like all over the place in the pick and roll. It's remarkable to watch him move laterally that way.
And Nerlens is supposed, at least by reputation, again, I don't watch it, by reputation, he's supposed to kind of be a rim protector guy, right? Like that's.
Yeah. He's like top 5 in blocks, I think.
But coach, you could be a shot blocker and not be a rim protector, right?
That's true. Right. That's true. It's true, because once the ball gets so too deep, then the plays over. And then what Murray started doing was, even if you drawing the defense in, and he started kicking out to guys, and it just became really problematic. So you gotta try to contain it before it gets too deep, because you're not making layups. Kickouts will kill you. Even though the Spurs aren't a great 3-point shooting team, but then again, they're kicking it out, then you close out, then they're ripping and going, kick to somebody else, get you to close out, and just keep the ball moving that way, and eventually get a good shot. And that's kind of what happened in that third quarter.
So Nerlens is third in total block shots this year.
All right.
Also, to go back to something Jim said, so I found the RJ's numbers in the restricted area for May. He's shooting 36% in the restricted area in May.
Wow. Okay.
Second worst on team.
Yeah, that must be worse than I guess the Lakers game wasn't included.
Moo got it in one. Payton is shooting 31% in the restricted area in May.
Hey Kyle, could you look that up month to month? Because I'm just questioning whether, if he had higher percentages early in the season, I think he's just tiring out with the crazy minutes he's been playing. When guys have gotten injured, he's averaging over 39 minutes a game. Lately. So I think his legs are affected, and that'll hurt you on the finishes.
Yeah. In
January
April
or February, he was like 65%. It was pretty wild. Oh, sorry, Kyle.
Yeah. So in April, he was at 55%. I'm just waiting for it to load here because I got to do it month by month. 64% back in March.
Yeah.
Then for February, I mean we see the trend here. It's going down.
What's league average in the restricted area?
Off the top of my head, I want to say somewhere around 60%.
Okay, so he's definitely below average regardless. But yeah, it's been a very steep decline this month.
Yeah.
Wall maybe.
What's that?
Hitting the wall maybe, but keep making threes, and all's forgiven.
Yeah,
for sure. Yeah, I mean, he was 3 of 10 from 2, 5 of 9 from 3. So I mean, it was just pitiful if it wasn't a 3-point shot. And we all thought we were going to see another piss poor game from him, honestly, because like we said, the last game everybody was turning on him. Now at least he was able to hit those big shots and have a bigger second quarter there. But Jim, real quick, you got a question in the chat. What kind of beer are you sipping on over there?
I'm drinking one of the New York's finest. I'm drinking a Montauk watermelon ale. It's quite delicious, and from Long Island. So
watermelon ale sounds pretty scrubby. Knowing that,
not your best segue, Slice. You've had better ones.
It sounds like the Alfred Payton of beers.
All right, so
Alfred, there you gotta go there, Coke.
Yeah, I got the alley-oop. I'm gonna throw it down, man. Scrub of the Night, Alfred Payton Award. We give it out under his name, and I'm going with two people. It's gonna be a co-scrubs of the night, and that's Rudy Gay and Patty Mills. Patty Mills is a guy. He's been a Nick killer.
Nick Killer, yeah.
We're always struggling to keep him in front of us, and then when you do, rush out and try to close out, he's got that step back three, and he usually hurts us. But tonight, combined with Rudy Gay, 3 for 15 from the field, 2 for 9 from 3, and a negative 36 plus minus. So they didn't bring much off the bench, and I think that's why we were able to cut into that lead in the fourth quarter, because they couldn't really stick with that bench unit, and they deserved it. It's well earned. Scrubs of the night, Patty Mills and Rudy Gay. So Matt, I know you were tracking the game. I like to get your scrub of the night. It can be a Knick, it can be a Spurs player. Hell, it can even be a coach, man. Just give me somebody who didn't impress you tonight.
He's not going to give up a coach.
No.
That's the fraternity, right?
I'm not doing that, but I've never gotten an opportunity to do this before, so I am going to do it tonight. I'm going to concur on an earlier statement. I'm going to give the scrub of the night to the refs.
Nice.
Those three calls. The Rudy Gay continuation, I was like, I don't know about that one, but okay. The out of bounds one was just bad. Luckily, they had the overturn, and then the one where DeRozan got the
foul on Frank.
Well, yes, because that one ended up they got the ball back, and then that's when DeRozan got was it DeRozan that got the end one, or was it Johnson?
It might have been. I don't remember, but yeah, I know what you're talking about. Ball, hit that foul on him.
Right, so they got the foul that was not a block, and then the ball went out of bounds, and then they got the ball back and scored. Now again, the Knicks were able to it was a bad call. Knicks, they get the ball in bounds, they get fouled, they go down, they make their free throw, so it didn't impact the game as much as it could have. But that call, I was just like, wow. So I'll give the scrub of the night. I don't get to do that because you can get fined and all of that. So this is my first opportunity to do it, so I'll take advantage of that. So I'll give it to the refs.
I think it's the first time this year the refs have won that award. So we got a first this time going late. But yeah, they definitely made some questionable calls in a game like this where you definitely don't want the refs to determine games, like we saw back, was it early April or March it was when we lost to the Nets and I think it was the Sixers.
Oh, yeah.
Brutal calls on Julius.
Yeah, those were two games the refs could have been the scrubs of the night as well. And the Nets game was definitely a heartbreaker because they all wear the same colors mostly.
That's right.
No, that was bad going back into it. But let's take a quick look. We had a big win tonight, right? We already made our predictions. I think we all predicted a sweep now coming up into Charlotte and Boston. So Charlotte's coming up next, a Saturday matinee game. Coke, I'll kick it off to you first, man. Let's start it again like we did last time. What's your key matchup, or what's the main thing you're looking for next game?
Well, it's got to be point guard. LaMelo Ball. He's the guy with all the glitz, the glamour, and a flashy name and a flashy game. So, Alfred's going to start out on him. None of us like that, but Tibbs always says he's in the starting lineup for one reason and one reason only: that size and defensive versatility at the point guard position. So he better contain LaMelo, and whatever 16, 10 minutes, whatever spot minutes that he plays, his main job out there is to not let Melo go off, not let him have a crazy career night. So that's what I'm looking at. Alfred do his job, and off the bench, I want to see IQ come in, and both rookies look to earn your stripes against the guy who's favored for the rookie of the year. Show, even though that you're a 25th pick, that you belong at least in the conversation. I want to see him go off offensively. So, let's match up by committee. We don't have a all-star guy, with a flashy name and a flashy game like LaMelo. So I want to see, Elf do it defensively and IQ do it offensively.
Yeah,
I guess.
go ahead, Jim.
No,
you
you go, Lou.
All right. Yeah, I think it's going to be the LaMelo show. I know he knows it's a spotlight, right? It's end of the season. Two teams are neck and neck or really close. He's going to look to put on a show. So the question for the Knicks is, how do they game plan that, right? So I think this will come down more to what does Tibbs do to try to, you can't stop him. Right, you can't, but you can try to make it difficult for him to get into his comfort zone. So it'll be interesting to see what Tibbs tries to slow down LaMelo. I think that's really the key. If you let him do his thing, I don't think he'll be shocked or afraid of the spotlight or anything. He'll just go off. So I'm interested in see how the Knicks and Tibbs try to throw LaMelo off his game. And then you kind of let the other guys on that team, I don't want to say beat you, but because they do have some talent, but you need to break down and stop their point of attack. And LaMelo's been that, and there's a reason he's the Rookie of the Year. So I think it'll be interesting game. It's a lot more exciting game than I think the Celtics game will be. So definitely that's something I'll be ready watching with popcorn. Jim?
Obviously, the most important matchup is going to be Miles Bridges versus Kevin Knox from the draft 2 years ago or 3 years ago now. But clearly, that was the biggest matchup because Miles Bridges would probably be a Knick right now, and they would probably be dealing with Kevin Knox. But I guess all kidding aside, I'm kind of interested to see how RJ takes the matchup with LaMelo Ball. Like, I don't know if they'll play and guard each other, but obviously RJ was a highly recruited, a high draft pick as well, and he might take it a little personally that LaMelo Ball is coming in because he's kind of like LaMelo Ball is getting all the acclimates that RJ never really got in the NBA so far. So I wonder, it'll be interesting if they match up together, if he takes that matchup personally. But it should be a fun game because it's like, do you try to double off LaMelo or double LaMelo and try to let Rozier or Graham hit threes, or do you kind of just let LaMelo create a one-on-one and you stick to all of those guys? It'll be interesting because we've seen Tibbs. He really likes to double like the best player on the floor. It seems to happen a lot. So I think that's going to be the interesting thing to see, whether he wants to let Rozier and Graham beat them or just hopefully stick to the shooters because Charlotte can shoot.
Coach, is there anything you might be looking forward to next game from your perspective that, the Knick fans should kind of pay attention to maybe from a coaching or a matchup perspective?
I would say realistically, taking all the X's and O's and matchups out of it, it's just have they turned the corner? Like you guys have been saying, they've been doing it all year, stepping up to take care of business when they needed to. Well, if there's 2 games left in the season and the seeding is important and they're trying to get to that top spot, they'll just do what they need to do. The scheme will be there, all those things like that. But do they step up and make the plays that they need to win those games? I think if they can do that over the next 2 games, then playoffs, Knicks fans should feel really good about their team because it means that they get it. Like, okay, yeah, we're going to have a game plan in place. Yes, we're going to try to do some things offensively, defensively, but at the end of the day, we have to step up and make the plays and just get it done by, whatever it takes, get it done. So if they can do that over the next 2 games and solidify that, the 4th spot that they want in the playoff, bracket, then you'll know you have a good team that's ready to compete this year, and then hopefully down the road continuing to take steps to get where you guys are trying to get.
No, for sure. Definitely some good points. The Knicks, exceeded everybody's expectations and surprised fans for sure, being where we are right now. Just a short-term outlook to next game. I think it's more of, the point guard platoons. You got Devontae Graham, Terry Rozier, and LaMelo Ball going up against, if Rose is back, Rose, IQ, and Burks. I'm going to take Elf out of it because he's kind of not even a factor to me anymore. To me, I think that's the key right there. The top 3 playmakers and ball handlers for the Hornets versus the top 3 ball handlers and point guards for the Knicks, because that's kind of where the key's going to lie. Julius Randle's going to do his thing. The Hornets, they killed us shooting-wise last time. I think it was like P.J. Washington of all players. He dropped like 8 threes against us. So the Hornets are going to get their shots. Julius Randle's going to do his. To me, I think the game's going to be won at that point guard spot, the 1-2 spot. And I think that's going to be kind of the key matchup to see for both squads. But, hey, like you said, the Knicks got to do what they got to do to turn that corner. We just were 4th. They clinched the playoff spot, avoid the play-in. The Charlotte Hornets and Celtics both have something to play for, in terms of the play-in. If nobody, if you guys out there listening, 7 just needs to win 1 game, they advance. 8, if you lose that game, you got to win another game. Boston's in 7th right now. Charlotte's in 8th. So the Knicks aren't going to have any cakewalks like Atlanta has coming up. Really the big thing coming up is Miami and Milwaukee. That's a game that's really going to be big seeding-wise for Knicks fans to pay attention to. Other than that, the Knicks got to take care of business at home in the weekend, back-to-back. Some big games coming up. Fellas, let's start to wrap it up. A big win for the Knicks tonight. Again, we're starting this homestand off strong. Colt, I'll kick it off to you for your final thoughts, man.
Well, it was one thing that we really didn't touch on, and being that our podcast is sponsored by Real GM, a lot of chirping going on Real GM about guys trying to build up DeMar DeRozan as a potential acquisition this summer. Like Coach said, we're trying to take steps.
Shams.
We're trying to, yeah, exactly. Shams and Melo. I'm not trying to hear that. I call him DeMar do not want DeRozan, okay? Triple D's. And I don't want this guy on the team. Didn't really show me anything tonight. Doesn't have a outside shooting game. We need, people who are going to spread the floor. He kind of duplicates the role that RJ already has. I'm not impressed. That's all I got to say about that. Second point, I want to point out, Spurs, well-coached team, usually, traditionally, for years and years under Coach Pops. It was tough to see a Coach Pops team quit, pretty much in the last 20 seconds. You see, they were supposed to play the foul shooting game. They were making the fouls, but they were letting a lot of time come off that clock. And that just showed me that they really didn't believe they had a shot to win. So, they weren't disciplined, didn't like how they executed playing, the intentional foul game and trying to get to that free throw shooting contest to, stretch the game out. So that was surprising. Just wanted to note that out. And the last point, happy birthday to my man, Jim. I know it's not midnight yet. Didn't know he's turning a big 32. So shout out to Jim. Have a couple of beers for the 5 of us, bro.
Thanks.
We could hang out for another 40 minutes.
Not me, man. Not me.
No, thanks. I want to go to bed.
The other thing I noticed too was what was going on with Pop's hair. Like he's like gone full like Legolas, like he looks like he's about to be, riding with Gimli in the Lord of the Rings.
He's going for that Immortan Joe look.
Yeah. Well, I think what's really going on, he's got a little bald spot, a little monkey butt in the back of his head, and he's just trying to cover it up with the slick back. I actually forgot about what I was going to say with that joke now. Moo, go ahead so I can think about what I was going to say.
Yeah, I'll touch base. I'll touch on DeRozan as a possible Knick. I like talent. Most guys on the board know that. I was one of the few guys that actually liked Randle last year. I liked Carmelo a lot when he was here. I liked Starbury, but DeRozan, he's a talented guy. I mean, he's available. I think part of it is he's available, and that's why folks are kind of latching on, because he's probably the most realistic get if the Knicks want to flash their cap space. But he's just not a fit. Right, not for the players that they have, and not kind of for where they want to go, and not for the amount of money that DeRozan's likely going to get, and not for the age, DeRozan's age. It's just really not a fit. So I'm with Coke on that. If they want to try to land that second star, DeRozan's the star. I think you got to just take those draft picks and try to trade for one that fits better. Right, I know folks, they want their cake and they want to eat it too, right? So they don't want to give up anything to get a star, so they want to sign one. Well, it's not always about that, right? If you sign a DeRozan, he's going to clog the ball with Randle. They both kind of do the same things.
Yes, that's what I was going to say.
Yeah, it's just not a really good fit.
I didn't think the overlap was with RJ. I thought the overlap was with Randle.
Yeah, it is.
Because they're both mid-post guys that like to kick out the shooters, you know?
Right. Right. So not from then. This is again from a person that likes big dollar talent guys. I'm not focused on defensive only, defense and 3-and-D guys. That's just not me, right? I know talent wins in the NBA, but it has to be the right talent, and it's just not the right talent. That's my take on that. The Spurs, I think this is probably the end, I think, for the Spurs as we know it, and Pop's probably as well. That's probably why he's letting his hair grow. He's already headed for the mountains with the cabin and whatever.
He's gonna meet up with Phil
He's
in
gonna
Montana.
be with Phil. Yep. We're gonna get a picture of him and Phil. Phil's got the same hair. But yeah,
I think up on the porch.
Yeah, I think this is probably it for the Spurs. They're not a good team. They don't have the base players, right? Murray's not. He's a very good player, but he's not someone you're going to build around. And who are you going to sign to bring in? They're definitely not going to bring back DeRozan, I don't think. So I think it's time probably for them to gracefully move on. I think Pops will give it up, and Becky Hammond's going to take over, and they'll make some noise with that. And it's a perfect segue for the Spurs to move on to their next phase of their franchise. So yeah.
Moo needs to put some respect on my boy Keldon Johnson.
He's actually a pretty good looking player.
They have just a bunch of okay guys,
Yeah, that's the thing, and you can't win, especially in the West like that.
No, not at all. And like Tim Duncan's not walking through that door. They they clearly missed that number one option guy, because it's like Keldon Johnson's pretty good, DeJounte Murray's pretty good,
Mm-hmm.
Lonnie Walker's pretty good. They're all pretty good. Much rather have them than Knox and Frank. That's for sure.
Pretty good to get you a treadmill.
Yeah, and that's what they are.
Yep.
It's sad to see Pop go out like this too. Do you think he'll go? You think he'll go somewhere else, or do you think he'll retire?
No, he'll retire. I don't think he's going to go anywhere else. No,
I don't feel sorry for Pop, man. They stopped the Knicks in the finals in what was it, 99, man?
99.
Yeah.
No tears for him.
That 22 years later.
That was Ewing's Achilles.
He had his
Ewing's Achilles that stopped us more so than Pop.
I don't care if
himself.
Pops was up. He was in gray and white. I don't shed no tears for him, man. He had a run. He was dominant. Hey, man, keep it moving.
I think this, even in the beginning of the game, they did an interview with Pops asking about Tibbs, and I've never seen him laugh before a game. And he was joking around, he was laughing, and he was doing all sorts of things. That was a sign to me that this is it. And he's coaching because he still has a contract, but I think after the season it'll be it.
Yeah, when he's not doing that bit where he just says one-word answers, like he's clearly checked out.
Yeah, that was wow. He spoke more in that one interview than he has the last 20 years. So yeah, I think that's it for him, which is good. New blood, new direction.
Yeah, they need it.
Yeah,
sure. Coach, you got any final thoughts for us? Any words of wisdom?
I don't know, words of wisdom. This was it was good. This is when I usually start watching the NBA anyway, around playoff time. So so this was good to get me caught up to speed and kind of get the landscape a little bit. Playoffs starting soon. This is after the NCAA tournament, I take my break and then I start to get into it back around NBA playoff time. So this was a good segue for me to kind of get at least familiar with a couple of teams and see how the landscape is looking. And but no, it was good to see. I'm not a Knicks hater. I'm not a Knicks fan, but I'm not a Knicks hater. I was in the 90s, but not anymore. They're all right. But no, it was a lot of fun. I definitely appreciate the invitation, and this was a lot of fun. It was fun watching the game, and it was fun breaking it down with you guys afterwards. And I listened to the podcast before. Coca's a good friend. I've known him. I'm not even going to get into how many years, but I don't want to age us, but.
That's right. We already know how old he is.
Yeah, because now, like Jim saying, you're turning 32. I'm like, man, like it's right around there for me and him. Go back to middle school, so that's like so we, you know what I mean. So that's a scary thought, but this was a lot of fun. So I definitely appreciate the invitation, and look forward to keep checking you guys out.
No,
No,
well, hold on, Slice. We not gonna let him get out of here without giving us that Obi Toppin anecdote. Stop trying to hold nuggets, man. You gotta drop that.
Well, not his. My first year of coaching out of college, I coached at a junior college in New York City called Globe. It's called Globe Institute of Technology. We're a Division I junior college in the city. Actually, about 6 blocks away from the towers before they fell. So that's another crazy story. But yeah, I go to an exposure event. I believe it was at Baruch, and junior college guys looking for another school or whatever, and I see this guy just ripping and running all over the floor, dunking, shooting threes, diving on the floor, taking charges. He was clearly the best player there. It wasn't even close. And so after all the games were over, I just went up to him, talked to him, and then exchanged numbers and got him on campus. And he actually, when he came to sign his paperwork and everything, he had I knew he had kids. And, he had a 2-year-old and maybe a 6-month-old at the time, and it turned out to be Obi Jr. and his younger brother Jacob, who's at Kentucky now, and he ended up signing. I actually never got an opportunity to coach him. I left that fall to go to coach at Drexel, so I didn't get an opportunity to coach him, but he had a great year, the junior college, and put up some really good numbers. Pop was a good player. So again, showing my age a little bit, because I remember he as a toddler, and now he's in the NBA. So I've been on this earth a long time. So it's but it's fun when you see stuff like that. It's just like, wow, you never, you're not thinking that 20 years ago, right? And then it comes full circle, and you see him getting drafted and see his pop there and all of that, and it's cool. But it's a really cool story for the family and everything. I'm happy for them. That he's made it this far, and he's young. He'll get better. I know, he's been up and down this year, but he'll get better. I think he comes from good stock, and he'll do well for you guys.
So for those who don't know, street ball, shout out to Dunker's Delight. That's Obi Toppin's father, man.
Yeah, good player. He got it honest. That's for sure.
For sure. Yeah, Obi he's been playing pretty well the last few games. Just this game was a little bit quiet, but luckily still the Knicks took care of what they had to do. Coach Matt, we really appreciate you taking the time to join us, man. Like you said, it was a pleasure having you on, and we appreciate the insight you brought for sure. The Knicks pick up the big win, keep pace with Atlanta, Miami tonight. Julius just missed a triple-double. Alec Burks came back and dropped 30. Knicks end the season with a back-to-back on the weekend, first against Charlotte, then in prime time, but another matinee on national TV against the Boston Celtics on Sunday. And we appreciate everybody who's checking us out tonight. Make sure you give us a thumbs up if you like what you heard, as well as subscribing so you can check out all of our latest videos as soon as they drop. We'll catch you guys on the weekend. First game Saturday at 1, and we out.
Congratulations till we run that clock out. MSG to Mecca, this is our house. NYC forever when we mob out. See that kid drip, got that clock clout.